Hello and welcome back to I Completed 80s Music, the only podcast walking you end to end through the biggest, brightest and most bonkers decade in pop. I'm your host, the 80s Mixtaper, and in this episode we're launching headfirst into the second half of playlist 21.5. But before we do that, we've had some more great correspondence from listeners, this time about those devilishly handsome Brit rockers Status Quo over on TikTok, where we discussed their single What You're Proposing. It appears there's still a lot of love for the Quo. Kika567 says, my first ever concert was Quo, and Nielswick123 says, our sister had a huge crush on Frances Rossi in the 1970s. Bless her. Bless her indeed. Yep, Rossi and the band were all good-looking chaps. That easy smile, that East End charm, the long hair, the voice. He was a charmer, make no mistake about it. As for concerts, I think you could do worse. Mine was Janet Jackson, if anybody who's wondering. But anyway, if you'd like to add your recollections, corrections, or anything else 80s related, you can find me on the socials as the 80s Mixtaper. That's 80s as in 80s Mixtaper. Or if you're old school like me and prefer to email it in, it's completed80s@aol.com. Again, that's 80s, completed80s@aol.com. So the second half of playlist 21, what do we have in store? Well, we enter the back half of March 1981. We'll be introducing the first of the two Sheffield synth powerhouses, Heaven 17. The actual Top of the Pops theme music for the first part of the 80s makes an appearance. We get another explosive track from Hazel O'Connor and end with Brit funk, reggae and ska tracks. As usual, due to copyright rules, we cannot play the tracks on the pod, but to combat this, you will find links to playlists for both Spotify and Apple Music in the episode description, plus a full track listing so you can listen along at home if those links fail. And with that in mind, let's get back to the music. So, for track 8, we enter into the clattering, jangled, funked-up world of Heaven 17's debut single, We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Thang. This song dropped on March the 6th, 1981. This is our first encounter with Heaven 17, a Sheffield synth-pop trio, Martin Ware, Ian Craig Marsh and Glenn Gregory, who'd later bless us with the irresistible hit Temptation in 1983. But before they were seducing us with that glossy anthem, they were out here throwing punches at fascism with a track that's equal parts protest song and alternative dance floor inferno. This is Heaven 17 at their rawest, their most urgent, their most gloriously chaotic. Press play now. So we're in Sheffield, it's 1981, the Steel City is in the grip of industrial decline, unemployment's through the roof, and Margaret Thatcher's iron grip is tightening. Across the pond, Ronald Reagan's just been elected and the Cold War's got everyone twitchy about nuclear annihilation. Into this grim soup steps Heaven 17, born from the ashes of the early version of the Human League, a band we'll meet in a few episodes. Ware and Marsh, fresh off a bitter split with Phil Oakey's crew, team up with Glenn Gregory, a punk rock photographer with a voice like a sardonic angel. They're not here to make you feel good, they're here to make you move and think. Fascist Groove Thang is their opening salvo, a track that dares to marry biting political commentary with a four-to-the-floor rhythm so funky it could be released now and still do business. The song kicks off with that iconic chant, everybody move to prove the groove, everybody move to prove the groove. It's a hypnotic loop, a call to arms that's both absurd and infectious. Then Glenn Gregory's vocals slide in, sharp and sneering. Have you heard it on the news about this fascist groove thing? Evil men with racist views spreading all across the land. No subtlety here. They're pointing fingers at Thatcher, Reagan, and the rising tide of right-leaning ideology, with lyrics that name-check Hitler. Hitler proves that funky stuff is not for you and me, girl. And warning of history repeating itself. History will repeat itself. Crisis point, we're near the hour. It's a protest song wrapped in a glittery synth-pop package. Was it ultimately right about those people being fascist? I think you'd have to say no. Musically, this thing is a glorious mess. Ware and Marsh, working under their British Electric Foundation moniker, build on an instrumental track called Groove Thang from their cassette-only release Music for Stowaways. They rope in teenage bassist John Wilson, a rhythm guitarist who'd just bought a bass, to lay down a groove. The percussion's a whirlwind, multiple electronic rhythm tracks colliding like a drunk marching band, making the song feel faster than its 120 beats per minute. Stuart Mason at AllMusic calls it clattering and jangled, and he's not wrong. It's like they took a funk record, fed it through a synthesizer, and turned the dials to unhinged. No Lin LM1 drum machine here, those wouldn't hit their studio till later in 81, so it's all analogue tape loops and synthetic chaos, raw and alive. The UK charts weren't kind. Released on Virgin Records, the single debuted on March the 21st, 1981, and peaked at number 45 a week later, spending just 4 weeks on the chart. The BBC banned it, spooked by Radio 1's legal team who thought lines like "Reagan's president-elect, fascist god in motion" might libel the new US president. Ouch. But the ban only cemented its cult status. It hit number 29 on the US Billboard Dance Music Club Play Singles chart and was named the fourth best track of 1981 by the NME. Not bad for a song that couldn't get airplay on Auntie Beeb. Lyrically, it doesn't hold back. Brothers, sisters, we don't need this fascist groove thing, the chorus pleads, a rallying cry against complacency. It's got this weird alchemy, danceable yet defiant, funny yet furious. Lines like "grab that groove thing by the throat and throw it in the ocean" are both absurdly vivid and deadly serious. Martin Ware later said they never considered updating the lyrics, even as its anti-fascist message stayed eerily prescient. It's a track that's very much of its time, he told 909 Originals in 2021. The production's a love letter to Sheffield's industrial pulse. Ware and Gregory's dads worked in the steel industry, and you can hear that grinding mechanical rhythm in the track's DNA, like Black Sabbath gone synth-pop. Ray Smith's cover art for the album Penthouse and Pavement, a satirical jab at yuppie culture with the BEF logo promising to open doors all over the world, screams irony. Its legacy? Massive. Covered by everyone from LCD Sound System to the Dead Milkmen, sampled by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's a song that refuses to fade. A 1993 Rapino Brothers remix hit number 40 in the UK, proving its staying power. Heaven 17 themselves revisited it live during their 2010 Penthouse and Pavement tour, tearing the roof off Sheffield's lead mill. NME ranked it the fifth best album of 1981, and it's in the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. The single may not have cracked the top 40, but it's a cultural artefact, a reminder that you can fight the power and still make people dance. So here's to Fascist Groove Thang, a song that's equal parts warning shot and party starter. It's Heaven 17 telling the world they're not going to play nice, they're here to shake things up, one funky chain dance at a time. For track 9 today, I really hope this one brings back some memories. Well, it depends on whether you've been watching Top of the Pops reruns on Friday nights currently, as this next song crops up on every Top of the Pops episode between 1981 and 1986. It is, of course, a song which ended up as the Top of the Pops theme music. This is Yellow Pearl by Phil Lynott. Press play now. So, Phil Lynott, the leather-clad bass-slinging poet of Thin Lizzy, steps out on his own with a track that feels like a fever dream of neon and ambition. Yellow Pearl. Such an iconic track that ends up on an iconic show. This is Phil Unchained dipping his toes into synth-pop shimmering pool while still carrying the rock and roll swagger. It's a song that's a bold leap, a single that hits number 14 on the UK charts. Phil Lynott, the heart and soul of Thin Lizzy, the Irish hard rock outfit that gave us The Boys Are Back in Town and Whiskey in the Jar. By 1980, Thin Lizzy was still a force, but Phil was restless. He'd already dropped his first solo album, Solo in Soho, in 1980, a record that showed him stretching beyond the twin guitar roar of Lizzy into something more eclectic, jazz, reggae, pop, whatever caught his ear. Yellow Pearl came from those sessions, a collaboration with Midgeur, the Ultravox frontman and temporary Lizzy keyboardist who was basically the synth wizard of the era. The song's origin story is pure rock mythology. Thin Lizzy are touring Japan in 1979. Midgeur, fresh off replacing Gary Moore on guitar, gets bumped to keyboards when Dave Flett joins the tour. At sound checks, Yeur's messing around with this hypnotic riff, and Phil ears perk up. Fast forward to Solo in Soho's recording, Phil's got a home studio, he's geeking out over new tech, and he ropes Yeur into fleshing out this idea. The result? A sleek, pulsing track that's less jailbreak and more Blade Runner. It's got Billy Curry's ARP synthesizer, Urs Mini Moog, Brian Downey's syn drums, and Phil himself layering bass, rhythm guitar, vocoder, and percussion. There's even a female voice credited as Laureen, adding this ghostly counterpoint. The lyrics, co-written with Ur, are a cryptic warning about technology's rise, inspired by Japan's tech boom, and a nod to the Yellow Magic Orchestra. That female voice cuts in at the start. We must all beware of the yellow pearl. It's like they're prophesying a world of Sony Walkmans and cyber dystopia. The words in the song are half poetry, half nonsense, as Ur admitted, with Phil chasing rhymes like a kid chasing fireflies. Attack, 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 he chants. A line some ex-posts claim was inspired by his love for Manchester United's relentless style, though I can't fully verify that. What's clear is the song's vibe. It's futuristic, paranoid, and impossibly catchy, with hooks that dig into your brain. When Solo in Soho dropped, Yellow Pearl was a 4 minutes and 6 second cut, complete with a spoken intro. But in 1981, Midge remixed it for the Phil Lynott album, shaving it down to 2 minutes and 56, ditching the intro and pumping up the drums. Some say with Rusty Egan's help, though that's debated. This leaner version caught the ear of the BBC, and boom, it's the Top of the Pops theme, blaring through living rooms every Thursday night. The remix hit the UK charts on December the 26th, 1981, peaking at number 14 and number 13 in Ireland. There was a £20,000 video too, directed by Ur, with Japanese imagery and a menacing Walkman, leaning into the song's tech anxiety theme. Phil, ever the joker, quipped about the royalties. Every time I see Top of the Pops, the cash register in my head starts ringing, and then deadpan, about 2p. I don't know, I wish I'd written the theme tune to Coronation Street. This was Phil's solo career at its peak. Fearless, experimental, a little messy. Solo in Soho cracked the UK top 30, and while the Phil Lynott album flopped commercially, Yellow Pearl was a triumph. It showed Phil could hang with the new wave kids, blending his rock roots with synth-pop's glossy edge. Lynott was a musical magpie, as Ur put it, stealing bits of the future to make something timeless. The Top of the Pops gig gave it legs, and from 1984 to 1986, a guitar-heavy version even served as the show's chart rundown music. But there's a bittersweet edge here. Phil's solo ventures were a high-wire act. Soon after, he was battling heroin addiction, and we all know how that ended. Yellow Pearl stands as a moment where he outran his demons, if only for a few minutes, to make something bold and strange. It's Phil Lynott saying, "I'm not just the rock guy, I'm the future too." And when that synth riff hits, you believe him. Okay, we're back with Hazel O'Connor, picking up where we left off with her apocalyptic synth stomper 8th Day from 1980, a track we heard all the way back in episode 12.5, that glorious slice of new wave melodrama that hit number 5 on the UK singles chart. That was Hazel riding the wave of her Breaking Glass film and soundtrack, a punky theatrical middle finger to the world, all wrapped up in her Coventry grit and stage school swagger. But now it's 1981, and Hazel's not just the Breaking Glass girl anymore. She's trying to carve out a new path, to step out of the character Kate's shadow, and prove she's more than a one-hit wonder or a celluloid flashpoint. Enter D-Days, her March 1981 single from her second album Sons and Lovers. This is Hazel doubling down on her new wave roots, but with a sharper edge, a song that's both a dance floor banger and a sneering commentary on the decadence of London's nightlife. This is track 10. D-Days, short for Decadent Days, peaked at number 10 on the UK singles chart, a solid follow-up to her Breaking Glass hits, but not quite reaching the same heights. Produced by Nigel Gray, who'd worked with The Police and Susie and the Banshees, and remixed for the single by Tony Visconti, the guy who shaped Breaking Glass's sound, this track is a taut, marching anthem with a pulse that feels like it's strutting through Soho at 2 a.m. Hazel wrote it after a night out in London's West End, surrounded by posers and people looking very bizarre, as she put it in her autobiography, Uncovered Plus. The song's got this vivid, almost cinematic quality, like she's sketching a scene of hedonistic weirdos in real time. Put on your face, put on your clothes, go out dancing, pose, pose. Wind our bodies round and round, move to the rhythm of the far out sound. Her voice is dripping with both mockery and fascination. Those lyrics, it's a call to revel in the absurdity of it all. But there's a bite, a sense that Hazel's both in the party and above it, judging the freaks while being one herself. Musically, the song has a great structure. That smart marching pace, as Rosalind Russell wrote in the Record Mirror, gives it a militaristic strut like Hazel's leading a parade of misfits. The synths are bright and jagged, the drums snap with urgency, and Hazel's vocals, always that mix of raw and theatrical, carry this edge of defiance. David Hepworth in Smash Hits nailed it, saying 8 bars into this and I'm reaching for Red Star's Russian fur hat and Cossack dancing round the office like a good 'un. It's got that energy, propulsive, a little camp but never soft. This isn't the introspective saxophone-soaked Will You or the sci-fi dread of Eighth Day. This is Hazel leaning into the new wave's danceable side, but with a punk sneer. The B-side, Time Is Free, adds a looser, almost jazzy contrast, but the A-side's the star here, a 3-minute blast of attitude. Hazel was in a weird spot in 81. Breaking Glass had made her a star. Her role as Kate won her the Variety Club of Great Britain's Best Actress award, and the soundtrack went gold, hitting number 5 on the UK albums chart. But now she was trying to shake the Kate persona. Sons and Lovers, released in November 1980, was her attempt to stand alone as a singer-songwriter, not just a film tie-in. Record Mirror's Simon Ludgate called her out for trying too hard to escape her own publicity, noting the album's listenable new wave pop, but critiquing her melodramatic and actorish vocals. Fair, but D-Days works because of that drama. Hazel's belting them like she's on the stage, commanding attention. Her performance on Top of the Pops in 81 shows her in full command, all angular moves and fierce eyeliner, owning the song's energy. What's the song about? It's not a party track. Hazel's poking at the excess of the early 80s, the post-punk and the new romantic scene where everyone's peacocking, chasing fleeting thrills. These are the decadent days, she sings, and you can hear the smirk. It's a snapshot of a moment, London's club scene, the new wave explosion, the weird overlap of punk's DIY ethos and the glossy excess that was creeping in. Hazel, who ran away from Coventry at 16, busked in Amsterdam, picked grapes in France, and dodged a civil war in Beirut. She knew how to spot phonies. She'd lived too much to buy the pose. For track 11, something soft and jazzy. We're in the sun-soaked groove-heavy world of Light of the World's 1981 single, I'm So Happy, a double A-side with Time that hit number 35 on the UK chart. This is our first and only spin with Light of the World on this pod, and it's a bittersweet one-night stand because this band, wow, they're a cornerstone of the British jazz funk movement, right there with Level 42 and Freeze, who we've already chewed over. But Light of the World, they're the unsung heroes, the ones who lit the fuse for the whole scene, and I'm So Happy is their joyful, bittersweet peak, a song that's all about chasing euphoria, while the band itself was starting to fracture. Let's unpack this gem, its place in the UK's jazz funk explosion, and why it still matters. Light of the World formed in London in 1978, named after Kool and the Gang's 1974 album, Light of the Worlds, a nod that tells you exactly where their heads were at. This was a crew of serious players, Jean-Paul Mornick on guitar, Everton McCalla on drums, Paul Williams on bass, Neville McCreath on guitar, Chris Etienne on percussion, Peter Hines on keyboards, Kenny Wellington on trumpet, and Dave Baptiste on saxophone. By 1971, G. Bello and Nat Augustin joined the fold, rounding out the lineup. They were part of a wave of British bands in the late 70s and early 80s who took the slick, syncopated grooves of American acts like Earth, Wind and Fire and Herbie Hancock and gave them a distinctly UK spin. Think pirate radio vibes, multicultural London energy and a DIY ethos that punk was hogging all the credit for. As Discog notes, Brit funk wasn't just aping American sounds, it was steeped in Anglo-centric club culture and the everyday grit of Thatcher's Britain. Their debut single, Swingin', hit number 45 in 1979, a modest start, But then came the 1-2 punch of I Shot the Sheriff, which hit number 40, and I'm So Happy in Time, which hit number 35, both cracking the UK top 40. Their first album dropped in 79 on Ensign Records, and their second, Round Trip, in 1980, nudged number 73 on the UK albums chart. That's the context for I'm So Happy, a band hitting their stride commercially, but teetering on the edge internally. By 1981, Baptiste, Wellington and McCreath were out the door, forming Beggar & Co., which we'll get to in a second. But first, let's talk about the song itself. I'm So Happy is a 4-minute burst of pure, unfiltered joy, built on a foundation of tight bass lines, shimmering keys, and musicality which punches you right in the chest. The lyrics, sung with soulful conviction by G. Bello, is not the finest literature, but it doesn't need to be. The groove does the talking. The track's got this effortless saunter, like a sunny afternoon stroll, with a rhythm section that locks in tightly and a horn arrangement that's equal parts jubilant and sophisticated. The double A-side partner Time leans more reflective. Together, they're like two sides of a coin. One's a celebration, the other's a reminder that the clock's ticking. What makes I'm So Happy stand out in the Brit funk scene is its polish. Where Freeze's Southern Freeze, which hit number 8 in 1981, had a raw, almost proto-acid jazz edge with those smooth vocals, and Level 42's debut was all muso virtuosity, Light of the World brought a warmth and accessibility that felt universal. They weren't playing for the jazz nerds in the back of the club, they were aiming for the dance floor, the radio, the sound of multicultural Britain. As Discogs point out, Brit funk was a melting pot, and Light of the World were the chefs, blending jazz, soul, funk, and even hints of reggae and Latin rhythms. You can hear it in the way the percussion pops, the way the bass line struts, the way the horns soar, without ever showing off. But here's the rub, 1981 was a turning point. The departure of Baptiste, Wellington and McCreath to form Beggar & Co., whose Somebody to Help Me Out was climbing the charts around the same time, meant Light of the World were losing key architects of their sound. Beggar & Co. kept the jazz funk torch burning, but Light of the World never quite recaptured that early magic. Still, I'm So Happy is a snapshot of their peak, a moment when they were firing on all cylinders. It's no coincidence that the Brit funk scene was exploding right then. Freeze were riding high, and Level 42 were laying the groundwork for their pop crossover. The song's chart run, peaking at number 35 in spring 1981, wasn't earth-shattering, but it was a victory for a band pushing a sound that wasn't new wave, wasn't new romantic. It was Brit funk, a genre that, as the Electric Soul Show notes, was finally getting its due in the UK after years of American dominance. I'm So Happy helped define it. You can hear its DNA in later acts like Jamiroquai or Soul to Soul, bands that took that club culture energy and ran with it. Listening to I'm So Happy now, you can't help get that Sunday morning feeling of it all. The optimism, the groove, the sheer vibe, it's all there, untouched by the cynicism of the decades that followed. It's a song that makes you want to smile, to maybe call up someone you love and tell them you're happy just to be with them. And for Light of the World, it's a reminder of what they were. A band that lived jazz funk, breathed it, and gave it British accents. They may not have hit the heights of Level 42's later pop glory or Freeze's chart-topping moments, but for those 4 minutes in 1981, they were untouchable. For track 12, and we're back with some reggae. Sugar Minott's buttery voice is about to melt the UK charts. We're talking about his single Good Thing Going, a reggae cover of a Michael Jackson B-side that somehow outshines the original and becomes Minott's biggest hit. Much like Light of the World, this is our one and only dance with Sugar Minott on this pod, so let's give the man his flowers, his life, his sound, and this track deserved the full treatment. Lincoln Barrington Sugar Minott, born May the 25th, 1956 in Kingston, Jamaica, was a reggae titan, singer, producer, sound system operator, and a guy who could make a mic sound like it was falling in love with him. Growing up in Maxfield Park, he started singing at 12 in local talent contests, his voice already carrying that sweet, soulful grit. By 1969, he's part of the African Brothers with Tony Tuff and Derek Howard, dropping early Rastafari-influenced singles like Mysterious Nature and No Cut No Broke for labels like Micron and Studio One. The trio leaned into the spiritual roots of reggae, taking cues from the Abyssinians, but split by the mid-70s. Minott went solo, landing at Clennock Cox and Dodd's Studio One, where he wasn't limited to singing but also playing guitar, percussion, and soaking up the studio craft that would define his career. Here's where Minott changes the game. At Studio One, he starts writing new songs over existing rhythms, something singers did live but rarely in the studio. Tracks like Vanity, Hang On Natty and Jar Jar Children weren't just hits, they laid the groundwork for dancehall's vocal style, with Minott's smooth delivery and knack for melody making old rhythms feel brand new. His 1977 debut LP, Live Loving, is a cornerstone, often credited with birthing the dancehall sound that dominated the early 80s. By 1979, he's dropping Showcase and Ghettoology, blending roots reggae with the emerging lovers rock style, romantic, silky reggae that had UK audiences swooning. Minott's Black Roots label and youth promotion sound system also became a launchpad for talents like Junior Reid, Tenor Saw and Barrington Levy, cementing his role as a mentor and tastemaker. Back to Good Thing Going, originally a 1972 Michael Jackson B-side written by the Corporation, it's a breezy soul cut that didn't get much shine until Minott got hold of it. Released in 1981 on RCA for the UK market, this reggae reworking hits number 4 on the UK singles chart in March and spends 11 weeks on the chart. A massive crossover moment for reggae. Produced by Minott himself with D.A. Forbes, the track's got this laid-back, summery groove, all easy breezy guitars and warm bass, with Minott's vocals gliding over it like he's whispering sweet nothings to the rhythm itself. The song is a plea, raw and romantic, with Minott's voice carrying both ache and hope. We've got a good thing going, baby. Don't you know, don't you know? We've got a good thing going, baby. Don't let it go. This is Minott taking a soul gem and making it a lover's rock anthem. The UK, especially London's black communities, ate it up. Lovers rock was their sound, swapping Rasta militancy for pure romance. Minott, who'd moved to the UK after his 1980 hit Hard Time Pressure, was already a star there, outshining his Jamaican fame. Singles like Lovers Rock and Make It With You, a duet with Carol Thompson, had set the stage, but Good Thing Going was his peak, leading to an album of the same name that saw sunlit vibes and rocksteady echoes. Fans on Reddit's reggae page still call it a classic, with one user saying they prefer Minott's version to MJ's original, citing a live reggae at the BBC performance as proof of his primetime magic. Minott's importance to reggae is undeniable. He bridged roots, dancehall and lovers rock, mentoring a generation, and brought Jamaican sounds to global ears. His 1981 chart success showed reggae could cross over without losing its soul. When he died in 2010, the reggae world mourned a pioneer whose honesty and versatility shaped the genre. Good Thing Going is Sugar Minott at his sweetest, proof that a good song in the right hands can feel eternal. For our final track on Playlist 21, we're back with Bad Manners, the North London ska crew who last left us with Special Brew, their 1980 lager-soaked anthem that stormed to number 3 on the UK singles chart. It's 1981 now, and these 9 musical madmen, led by the gloriously unhinged Buster Bloodvessel, are riding the two-tone wave with their second album, Looney Tunes. Their new single, Just a Feeling, drops like a pint glass on a pub floor, loud, messy, and impossible to ignore. This is track 13, our final track on Playlist 21. March the 28th, 1981, Magnet Records releases Just a Feeling as a 7-inch single. Solid or knockout centre, take your pick. Roger Lomas is behind the controls, and it's the second single off Looney Tunes, following Lorraine, which cracked number 21. Clocking in at 3 minutes and 14 seconds, it's a ska pop jolt propelled by a locked-in rhythm section, horns that hit like a fire truck, and Buster's gravel-throated delivery. The B-side, Suicide, keeps the tempo up, but the A-side's the one that sticks, built for bars and school playgrounds where kids in Doc Martens lose their minds. The song's words are pure Bad Manners, a cheeky jab at anyone who doubted them. Buster sings, "You thought that I should get a steady job. You couldn't see I'm just a yob." The chorus follows, "It's just a feeling, a feeling." These lines ooze defiance and charm, the sound of a band who know that they're the underdogs and they love it. It's not about changing the system, it's about owning who you are. On the charts, Just a Feeling holds its own. It entered the UK singles chart on April the 5th, 1981, peaking at number 13 on May the 10th, and sticking around for 9 weeks. Not their flashiest hit, Can will top it later that year at number 3, but it's a crowd pleaser, part of Bad Manners' 111-week chart run from 1980 to 1983. Looney Tunes lands at number 36 on the UK albums chart, following Ska R&B, which reached number 34, and setting up Gosh, It's Bad Manners, which reached number 18. This is a band firing on all cylinders, churning out records and gigs like they're allergic to downtime. Bad Manners stand out in the two-tone pack. Madness have their nutty charm, the Specials carry a darker edge, the Selector keep it sleek, but Bad Manners, they're the mates who show up with a crate of beer and a bad idea. Buster, born Douglas Trendle, is the ringleader, shaved head, tongue like a slab of ham, banned from Italian TV after mooning the San Remo Music Festival. Rumour has it the Pope was watching. Their top of the pop spots are Chaos Incarnate. The BBC pulled the plug after Buster painted his head red. Just a Feeling bottles that energy, a song that feels like it's about to knock over the mic stand. The sound is crisp and relentless. Chris Kane and Andrew Marston's horns blare with urgency, while Brian Chewitt's drums and David Farron's bass drive the skank. It's made for live shows, where Bad Manners were unstoppable. A Rate Your Music review nails it as a little ska classic, with amusing lyrics and a pop hook, perfect for the band's anarchic vibe. You can picture it, a sticky floored venue, Buster bouncing like a pinball, the crowd pogoing in unison. In 1981, Britain's a pressure cooker, job losses, urban unrest, a sense of things fraying. Bad Manners don't preach or protest, but their music's a release, especially for working class kids who saw themselves in Buster's larger-than-life rebellion. Their performance of Just a Feeling on Ireland's The Late Late Show is a snapshot of their live power. Buster's a human tornado, the band's tight, the audience is electric. The song has also got staying power. It's in Cherry Red's 2017 Bad Manners, the album's 1980 to 85 box set. Just a Feeling remains a crowd pleaser. At some point in the future, we'll hit Can, their instrumental banger that somehow outcharts Special Brew. But for now, enjoy this one and let it take you back to a night when the world was just a little bit crazy. That's it for Playlist 21, but do join us next time as we finally prowl into April 1981. March was a big month, a big melting pot, but April brings us the United Kingdom's moment at Eurovision. Prepare for some Velcro ripping fun. We also get The Cure and Dire Straits both making waves, Spandau Ballet make us all muscle bound, and we end with REO Speedwagon. As usual, if you can leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it really does help me climb up the rankings, please. But until next time, I wish you all the best of health and a great week. Take care.